Hey, what's up guys, this is Val. So in today's video in our female club, I wanted to talk about a very distinctive way of using lighting and, you know, maybe even I should say lack of lighting, because, you know, as we're gonna explore, lighting can be a huge topic, right? There is a lot of options going on. You can illuminate from multiple angles, use different techniques and ways, and I don't want you to feel like it's like out of your reach. And we're gonna be exploring various lighting types, and what I want you to do is kind of have a feel for different techniques, listen to different videos, listen to me, listen to Robert, listen to Victor, listen to any other teachers we have in our club, and really pick something that resonates with you. So don't be intimidated by 100 gazillion lighting styles. It's all just different various techniques you can use. Okay, so pretty much what I want to cover today is a very specific lighting technique which I've developed during the years, which is really, let me just adjust my focal distance because I want this render to look in a specific way. There we go. So here is how it goes. You can pretty much use any light type for this. Okay, I'm gonna be using the light you already have as a free bonus included in this club, which is the let me just show you where it is. If I go all the way here, you can find it inside light presets. If you have it installed at the very bottom in the bonus section, Iray, and it's called Phantom HDRI, right? Now I don't have the, there we go, I have the icons here. I'm gonna be using this light here, but it's not about the light, because like I outlined earlier, as I said earlier, you can have spotlights, you can have point lights, you can have HDRI maps, you can have a gazillion options and different angles and all that. And I want to show you a concept of lighting. So I'm gonna just add a white light on black background, okay? And by the way, I'm gonna turn off the background, and I have added here, as you can see, if I go to Windows and go to Panes and Environment, it's a little bit slow because I'm screen recording at the same time. Go to Panes and Environment. I've added an image here which I found on Pixabay, and I just made it a little bit blurry. So it's actually this very image here, as you can see on Pixabay. Let me just go back so you can really follow along if you need to, right? That's the one over here on the right side of the screen. Just squeeze this in a bit so you can see it. There we go. Now we change positions. Let me just locate again. Whoops, I think it jumped to a different section. Kind of lost it here. There it is, right in the middle. Okay, so I loaded it into Photoshop, made it a little bit blurry. That's how I got this background there, and I just added it as a backdrop. And the cool thing about backdrop is that you can recolor them here, right? You can choose a different color if you want to have a different impression or look of that particular background. So now the background will recolor in a different color scale, but I want it to be blue, so I want to just keep white to have it look the way it's designed. Now, very important, I'm not gonna be drawing the dome. I can turn it off. It's a little bit slow because I'm rendering here at the same time. There we go. And also draw ground I can turn off. Okay, so let me just save the scene. So the concept is about rendering 2-3 renders with pretty much what you would consider good enough lighting. Okay, like we talked about one of the videos in our club, You want to pretty much illuminate your character so that you're facing the dark side towards the camera, and then you want the character to face the light, okay? So as you can see here, this kind of angle just straight off the bat looks pretty good. And one thing you will always find with lighting, I'm going to be exploring different techniques to cope with that, including in this video, is that sometimes you will get the face right, but you'll get too much lighting on the shoulder or on the hand in this case, right? But make the render. So this is about layers, right? Make the renders. I'm going to go to render settings. I'm going to choose one for now, and just 15,000, sorry. And I'm going to just scale this down a little bit so I don't render in full resolution, just to keep down my rendering time. I'm going to use maybe 900. Still a good resolution, right? And just, you know, render. And so the technique is, hey, the face looks good, make the render. Hey, the shoulder looks good, make the render. Hey, the arm looks good, make the render. Hey, well, this body part, the legs look great, make the render. You know, it's about making the render with just a fraction of what looks good. And then we're gonna be using Photoshop to distinguish the layer from each other. I'm gonna show you how to do that and virtually paint inside Photoshop using these layers. So for now, I see the DOF effect is a little bit too strong, so I'm just gonna pause this, all right, and just adjust it down a little bit. It's very, very strong. Let me just do that. Parameters, and let's do 150 maybe. I have a very strong zoom level, so that enhances the depth of field effect as well. So increasing this f-stop value will lower that. Perfect. That's about it. Good, good. All right. So let me save this. My computer is very, very slow now. I'm doing gazillion things at the same time. Poor computer. So let me render this, and I will get back in a moment. Alright, so after a few minutes it looks like this, and I'm not gonna finish this render. I'm just gonna cancel and just save this as a layer. Alright, so go ahead, save last render. And very important that you save as BMP so you preserve quality. Alright, so layer 1, BMP. Now, the only thing I'm now gonna do is go ahead here in the environment tab, go in here and simply rotate the dome. Alright, so I want to change that to a different angle, so to get a different kind of lighting. And what I'm going to do now is, let me just wait for it to initiate here real quick. That seems to be the wrong way. Alright, so let me go to, let's try 230 instead. That has probably, yeah, a little bit more lighting on the entire face, which is great. It seems to be an edge here around the chin, which is desirable around the chin. So that is pretty good. I could just, you know, make this render. So let's do that. And it looks a little bit washed out here and there, so I'm going to tone it down just by adjusting the environment map. Looks a bit too bright. You get a bit, have to be careful when rendering layers so they don't look overexposed or have too much light, because when they do, it's very hard to adjust them and use them correctly inside Photoshop. You don't want to wash them out here. If you want to wash them out, you can do that inside, you know, Photoshop. Let me just tone it down a little bit here so it doesn't wash out my render, and I'm going to just choose a little bit smaller render size still to get a little bit faster rendering. So let's do that. Let's go in here, go to progressive, and let me choose that's the quality. Let me choose the size. Let's choose 800. I'm going to scale down the other render later on. Alright, let me save that. Let's say scene 4 and render. I'm going to pause the video and I'll see you in a second. Alright, so after a few minutes looks good enough. Let me cancel that and save as layer 2. Now, I'm gonna do 2 more. I'm gonna do one more that's like almost straight into the straight on her, so to speak. So I'm gonna go and maybe choose 150. I mean, see how that looks like. Kind of like a straight render towards her, or even maybe from the right side. Let's just see how that looks. Yeah, so this is pretty much just straight ahead, right? And because this is a straight ahead render, I'm going to just lower the intensity just a little bit more so I don't overexpose her. And this is kind of like an additional main lighting, so to speak, kind of captures everything, right? So let's go ahead and render that. Let me just, like I said, in here, I don't really worry about the details, right? I just set the light, looks good enough for some of the features of her. I don't worry about which. I just aim the lights, do the render, and I'm gonna do the magic inside Photoshop, right? So next render is on the way. Let me just cancel and wait for it. I mean, cancel my video recording, so I'm gonna just see you in a second. Alright, very good. Let me cancel that. Save it as layer 3. And let me do one final one. Let me go here and re-enter full intensity, which is 0.2 here in this case. It's very, very slow at responding. There we go. And let me rotate it to kind of an angle that will come from the side, like almost a backlighting effect. Let me just go and check which that would be. So it's extremely slow at responding right now, screen recording at the same time. By the way, this is also a cool angle, right? Light angle. I mean, no matter how you render, it's always something gonna look great. But we're not gonna be using this one. So let me try yet another one like 0. See what that looks like a more backlighting effect. Let me just see real quick how that looks like. Yeah, almost like that. I think if I go maybe a little bit more, or maybe that's it. It's kind of a backlighting effect here on the hair as well. Kind of cool. Let me try and use, I think that's pretty good. But let me just try 350. If that's gonna look a little bit better. Or if that is the one we want. Yeah, this one is pretty good too. It's kind of a very, very backlight effect on pretty much everything. Kind of like it the way it is right now. It's very cool. Very strong and dramatic. So, let me use this as a final render. So I'm going here and just save it. So pretty much I'm just rendering, you know, like main light, a little bit from the side, a little bit from behind, and just, you know, I don't worry about how it affects the entire character, or a female character in this case. I just render the layers. The magic happens in Photoshop. So having that said, we are pretty much done here inside DAZ Studio. So in the next video, I'm gonna show you how to blend this in Photoshop, right? So see you there. Welcome back. So again, I'm not gonna let this finish. I'm just gonna be using the quality good enough, and I'm gonna call it layer 4. And pretty much, my friend, that's all I'm gonna do inside DAZ Studio. So right now I'm gonna turn this off. And here inside Photoshop, let me just adjust my window, there we go. I'm gonna be loading all 4 layers. So let me just locate them, there we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, and just load them. And also the first one, I gotta rescale it down because we later change the resolutions. I'm gonna scale it down. You can now watch them all in 100% scale. Now, neither of these look pretty good as they are, right? There's always something wrong with them. It's good face, too much on the hand, too much on the shoulder. Pretty good face, a little bit too much on the shoulder, too much on the hand. Good overall, but kind of flat. Dramatic, but you know, what are we looking at, right? So neither of these layers look good on their own. And that is the point, my friend. So don't worry if you get them to look like this, because it's by design, okay? You're just rendering them to just get a material to work inside Photoshop. Now, what you're gonna do in here is use Control A to select, Control C to copy, and I'm gonna create a new document which has the same size and it's black and to start with, okay? So I'm gonna stack all these layers together, use Control V to paste them. Control A and C, by the way, use Command on the Mac. Now I'm going to disable or just close layer 1 and repeat with layer 2. Control A, Control C, go back here, stack it on top. Alright. Now I'm going to go back here, turn off layer 2, layer 3, stack it on top, remove, and now go for layer 4, stack it on top. So I want to have all layers stacked on top of each other like that. Now let's start with the base layer. You can either use the layers as they are, combine everything, use screen blending mode, alright, and so to speak, hope for the best. And now what you can do, you can simply just say, hey, okay, this one over here, the frontal one, I don't want so much of it. Let's dim it down a little bit. So let's do that, okay? But as you can see, lighting immediately looks kind of cool, right? Because it comes from all kinds of directions and impossible angles, and it, you know, just automatically does its job. You can just decide, hey, I want more of this, more of that, and just live and interactively just decide, all right, I want as much of them to be like this. And when you blend them together, most often than not, you end up with a pretty good render. Now, there are still issues here with the hand here and there having a little bit too much to be good, right? So what we're gonna do is really locate these layers and one by one tone down the hand and shoulder from them. So for instance, on this layer over here, what we can do, this maybe can have everything illuminated, but this one, I don't want this one or this one to have as much on the shoulder. All right, so what I can do with this, I can create a mask. All right, and on the mask, the simplest thing I can do is use a gradient tool with black and white and just decide, hey, below the chin, I don't want to have anything else. So I just hold on shift, draw a straight line, and just whoops the other way, and just tone it down. Maybe such a fashion so it looks like this. All right, or maybe you can also not hold down shift and just tone down at certain angles or whatever. Just tone away what you don't want in the render. Then when you blend it together, you have less lighting on the shoulder from that very layer, right? This layer no longer affects the shoulder. And you can do the same thing with the other layers. You can go inside this layer and say, hey, I don't want this, or let's say this layer to affect the shoulder. So you go ahead, create a mask, click on it, and now add a gradient to it and fade away that portion of it. So this is one way of working with these layers. Now when you combine them together, you have less lighting on the shoulder there, right? So, but there is an additional, maybe more effective, this was just a quick way of doing that. Let me remove these layers now, because I want to show you the ultimate way of doing this, which is, let me just save this. So let me just go into the layer, that's the wrong one. this one, and just save it as a mix. All right, mix 1. Now, the other way of working with these layers is to have the layer on like this, and then you can even have a backlighting present or some other kind of lighting present, and just work with one individual layer at a time. And you see this layer affects a lot on the shoulder, right? So what you can do, you can grab a black color, use a brush, and use a little bit larger brush than that, of course. Let's see, we can maybe use 120 or something, and use hardness 0, it's very soft, and use opacity 20. All right, and now you work it, and you just simply remove and paint away exactly what you don't want from this layer. That was the shoulder, right? That was the shoulder. Now let's say you want to remove the shoulder from this layer, or maybe not. Maybe you want to remove the hand from this particular one. Let's remove that. All right, so you can go ahead now, paint away from each and one of these layers exactly what you want to keep and what you do not want to keep. All right, let's say, hey, I want less of shoulder on this one, so let's remove that. Less on the hand on this layer. Let's say on this layer here, it affects the face pretty nicely, but it illuminates the shoulder again. So let me remove the shoulder. Now I'm painting with black directly on the images. You can also do that with an additional mask, okay? But painting with black directly on top of them is okay. All right, that's okay. That's what layers are for. So now, let's say you want a little bit less, maybe neck lighting on this back lighting here, right? So we just simply tone away those parts. Just paint with black directly on the layer. It's pretty darn amazing. I mean, you can do pretty much anything you like here. Let's say, hey, this layer over here looks pretty good, but it illuminates the hand too much. Well, let's remove the hand from the layer. Just simply remove it. And you keep everything else intact. So that's how you do that. Now, there's an additional kind of cool side to this, and that is, while you're doing this, let's say, hey, this one looks pretty cool, right? Let's enhance it. Well, let's double it then. Let's go to duplicate layer, and bam, we got double that amount, right? It adds that fancy cool effect. Well, on the double, you got a little bit too much on the shoulder. Well, let's remove it. You know, paint away. It's that easy. It's that cool. And then you can just say, hey, I want more on that face lighting, this one, but only in the face. All right, so duplicate that layer. You get more of the lighting on the face here, and now you can say I want to pretty much remove everything from this layer. So go a little bit more harder on that, remove it all together from here, and just wash it away. That's how we do that. And now you keep the strong light on top on the face on this layer only. All right, so that's how powerful this is. That's how much control it gives you. You can also say, hey, I want less of this additional thing happening here on her left chin, our right, but her left chin. So you can go ahead and paint that away here as well. So it's extremely powerful, and it gives you precision control of pretty much everything without going back to DAZ Studio. Okay, so it's very, very powerful. Now, maybe it's too much here on the shoulder still. So let's go ahead and tone it down. You just select the black brush, 20, 25% or 30, and remove it. Tone it down. So after everything is done, let me just save. Let's save as mix 2. All right, so now that you are done with that part, you are pretty much ready for just flattening the image and going into the camera raw and just apply some additional effect in here. For instance, make it even colder or warmer, or just keeping as is. You can also punch the exposure if you want to further enhance the image. You can punch the contrast to tone down the black parts of it, or the difference. You can then also do, let me just show that, you can play with highlights, okay, just how strong do you want the highlights to be. You can play with shadows. Do you want to have darker shadows? You can play with blacks, the dark part of the image, just how dark do you want them to be, right? And ultimately in the end you also can play with saturation, go black and white, or just adjust this down a little bit, and also add vignetting, okay, to frame the image a little bit. And that, my friend, adds, and ends this very tutorial. What you also can do is duplicate the layer at the very end and just tone down the underlaying part here if you want to, and use multiply on it and really blend it just a little bit, so not that much, but just a tiny bit. Okay, that punches the face a little bit more and also adds away a little bit from it, makes the face stand out a little bit more. So that's it pretty much, my friend. As you can see, it has enormous control. It gives you very much control over pretty much everything, every detail of the face, exactly how it's illuminated, every single highlight, shadow, and all that. You have full control over that. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you next time.